Hello and welcome to episode number 30 of the Midierror Meets podcast, where we speak to a wide range of people from the music world. On the show this time we have Ruby from Yumi and the Weather, who's a tremendously talented singer, songwriter, musician and producer based on the south coast of England. Ruby's released a number of albums and EPs, and she's also heavily involved in the production of her music videos, which are absolutely amazing as well. And in the interview we both talk about our sort of mental health issues and ways of overcoming and dealing with them. You can now donate to the podcast via PayPal. You can also donate via Ko-fi or GoFundMe if you like. And we have a new inductee into the MIDI Arpeggiation Hall of Fame. So thank you very much to Jeremiah Johnson for your generous donation. All the donations go back into the running of the show and are greatly appreciated. Okay, let's get on with the interview then. And the first thing I asked Ruby was about her musical beginnings.
Okay, well, I suppose I had like a little tape player, like a recorder, and I must have been quite young because I've captured like me singing little songs on this tape like player, and I used to record like at the dinner table, just my family, and I've got this, it's quite sad in a way, but like because my parents aren't together anymore, and I've got this really sweet recording of like just us all at the dinner table together.
That's so cool.
And then also I think I need to dig it out because it's definitely around somewhere. And also on the cassette I've written a little song, my first ever song, which is about cats. And it's just like how much how much I love them and how much they're how sweet they are. Yeah, brilliant. So that was like the beginning of like recording, you know, like producing. And then I suppose, music-wise, it's funny really because I've twiddled like on my dad's guitar, like I'd pick my dad's guitar. Well, I wouldn't even pick it up because it was so massive. It was like a 12-string acoustic, and I just used to like just playing with the strings like all as one. And then I think I'd like learnt Bar Bar Black Sheep, like just like hearing it, I sort of worked it out. And then, you know, did the whole recorder thing at school, choir. Like I wanted to sing, but I wasn't actually very good. Like I think my voice was very kind of sort of, I was so shy, like, but I just liked being a part of it, but I just didn't project my voice. Like I didn't want everyone to hear it. I wasn't fussed about like, oh, listen to my voice. It was more like I just liked singing like quietly for myself.
Yeah, because there are certain people that are like that. They're like, everyone must hear me sing now.
Yeah. Like opera singers are just like they just want all the attention. Yeah. No, they're lovely. But I suppose then I actually started violin. I think because my friend was an amazing violinist at a young age. He was kind of like a sort of I suppose you call it child prodigy, is it? On the violin. So I sort of was just like, wow, like I wanna play because he's, you know, really good. I was like, oh, I wanna like learn, but I wasn't actually like, it was just very hard. I didn't practice enough, and I think like my dad was obviously playing guitar, and he'd sort of teach me a few bits, and then in the end I was like, actually, I think I just want to play guitar. And he taught me for like every time I used to see him, like we'd like learn, you know, typical Oasis and Jimi Hendrix and like I think what actually really the first guitarist that really inspired me was actually Jimi Hendrix. Like I heard his music in the car, and it just like it created this like I just felt my heart like really warm, and like it was like this excitement of like wow, like so I think that's what got me into more electric guitar. But on the side my mum then started me on like classical Spanish guitar, which was really useful for like finger picking, and I suppose I learnt to read a little bit of music, but I learnt it in colour, which was a sort of silly way really in the end, because it meant that when I read black and white notes I just had to almost work it out a different way, so it was a little bit of a waste of time. But it was just interesting, sort of. It was just quicker for me. I think colour was just quicker. So I could read it, but I wasn't reading music. I was just reading colour. But yeah, I suppose that was the sort of journey from like the beginnings, like. And yeah, I remember like my first performance playing guitar in front of the whole school, like it was like year 7, and I had to do a little performance of one of my classical pieces, and I just still remember the amount of sweat that my hand gave. Like, I've never had such a sweaty hand in my life, still to this day. And it was just, yeah, it was an amazing feeling.
You can't even see your hand because there's so much sweat on it.
Just like glazed, the light was just shut, like reflecting, and yeah, no, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, it was a really weird feeling because like at school I wasn't like, I knew a lot of people and I didn't have like loads of close friends, but I was kind of more of a lone ranger at school, like just doing my own thing. And I think it was just nice to like do something like I'd worked on for a while and then showing them, because I don't think I never used to really talk to people about it, so it was just quite a nice like and then I was going to high school to sort of start a band, so it was almost like a send off of like this is my thing. So yeah.
Do you remember what piece it was? What piece did you play?
Oh my god, Jesus, actually I don't actually remember, because I remember at the time there was a few classical songs I was learning, so I literally, it could have been either one of those. I should be able to remember, but
that's
for some
right.
reason
I thought you were going to say that you were
can't.
like rocking out to All Along the Watchtower or something in front of your school.
No, it was more classical, so like it must have been like either like Spanish Romance or I think it might have been that. I really can't remember. Even the songs that I did learn from that period, like, because I haven't played them in ages, I just literally can't even remember. Like, I recognise some of the melodies, but I learned, like, I read loads of music back then. Now I'm just like, what's A? What's that one? And then, yeah,
just
it's like slow, but
yeah. I think Oasis.
I just love hearing music.
Yeah. I think Oasis is a really good starting point for guitar. You can play so many of their songs with like 3 or 4 chords, or like their big songs.
Yeah. Maybe it was my favourite. I was just like, oh yeah, it was so fun. I love that song.
There is so many. I think I started out like self-taught on the guitar with Oasis, and it was really amazing to see them live before they broke up and be like, that's the guy who's played all of the things that I've been playing like for 15 years on guitar. Like, that's the guy that
that's so
it.
sweet.
That was amazing. Yeah, he played, Noel Gallagher played Don't Look Back in Anger on acoustic only for this big, an Oasis gig I went to. And that was the track that I basically learned the guitar with. But yeah, very nice, easy way into music through the guitar. And also, the tape recordings are fun, aren't they? Do you still find yourself making those funny little recordings?
I use my phone to like capture little songs now. When I don't want to set up the whole thing, I think sometimes it's just like nice to get really quickly in the moment. And also I like the sound of phone recordings. There's that sort of like, the lo-fi sort of vibe, very tinny. So I do actually like phone recordings with acoustic stuff. I think I will bring out like a entirely recorded on the phone acoustic EP at some point.
That would be great.
Because I just really like the sound. I try and imitate that sound on Logic or like the computer. So it's sort of might as well just do it. Like, I think it's good practice as well, because we're so used to just recording, and then if it's not perfect, we can do it again. But with trying to do it in like the 8-track style, or like, you just have to do it. That's how they used to do it. So people would be actually more, I think, probably better musicians, because they have to just really get that juggling of voice and guitar like right, instead of doing it separately, which is kind of what I do at the moment. I do a lot of things separately. So performing live, I'm just crapping my pants, because I'm like, if I miss that little bit of cue, then it's sort of, I'm a bit of a perfectionist live, so that kind of gets me a bit like,
Yeah, I think you've done really well. There's been a couple of performances you've done fairly recently where it's just you and like a web camera essentially, and they're really, really good. I've really enjoyed watching and listening to them.
So weird and kind of a bit, because you just don't get that kind of, you know. I have my boyfriend clapping though. That was nice at one of them. But yeah, it is kind of strange. But you know, I think it's better than nothing at the moment, isn't it?
Oh,
That's
definitely.
all you can do.
Yeah. It's like I was speaking to a guitarist called Gwennifer Raymond, she's also in Brighton. She does Welsh primitive finger picking.
Amazing. That sounds awesome.
Oh, she's absolutely disgusting. She's so good at playing the guitar.
Just get out of my side.
Yeah, like, her hand is so fast. She's unbelievable, and like there's no lyrics, so it's just like really powerful music, dark, a lot of it.
Awesome.
Quite sort of
down-tuned sort of.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the occult. Something about it that's like the occult. It's like supernatural things happen when you turn it up. Yeah, she's an amazing guitarist. And
I'll check her out. That sounds cool.
Yeah, so she did the same thing. She was doing some live performances from her flat, and we spoke about it being sort of like, it's like Uncanny Valley. Do you know what Uncanny Valley? It's like when someone tries to make a human robot and it looks like 90% like a human, but the small percentage difference makes it look really odd. And it's a bit wrong.
Okay.
So we said that the stream gigs were a bit like an Uncanny Valley gig. Like it feels like a gig, looks a bit like a gig. No, you've done tremendously well. I think in one of them you said that your drummer and bassist were supposed to turn up and they couldn't make it. So you did tremendously well to just be up there yourself with a loop pedal.
That was so funny. I just was like, it was just so surreal as well, because my boyfriend, he was doing the sound, so he was like right in front of me, and one of the songs was actually written like a little bit about him, and then I didn't have the band. I was really looking forward to rocking out, and then I don't know, I was just suddenly like, the room was so quiet and there was no clapping after I finished the song, so I was sort of just like, okay, and then there's the next one. It was just like,
you did really
having
well.
to kind of keep that. Thank you. It was a very unusual experience, but I really enjoyed like doing it. It looked amazing, like the professionalism with the sound and the lights. Like I was so happy to have played, but you know, it was just massive shame. But
no, I think that is a good exercise, as difficult and as awkward as it is doing that, because I feel awkward just talking on Skype. I feel like that's awkward on its own. So having a gig, I think those sorts of performances are going to put you in really good stead when you are back in front of audiences, when you are playing live with, you know, multiple people around that are helping you and band members. Suddenly I think you're going to be able to draw from that moment and be like, really give it your all, you know.
I think it is like a perception, isn't it? Like that, we know we were chatting a little bit before about you know, confidence, and I think it's like the reason why I get scared is because I feel like I'm capable, but as soon as like people are watching, I sort of then get so perfectionist about it that I'm thinking about the wrong things, basically. So it's like I just need to just really concentrate on just letting go and almost pretending that I'm just like, you know, when I shut my eyes and I perform live, like sometimes I pretend that I'm like performing in front of loads and loads of people, and then in the past I've done that and I've given myself like mental health issues because I've done it too much. I've been like, right, I'm performing to the world and then I'm like sectioned like a couple of weeks later. And that's a true story, but we don't have to sort of talk about that in a big sort of depth. But it's definitely like where I think when you're a creator, you know, you're over analyzing all the time. And sometimes you take that into your own life as well, like with analysing like relationships or what you said to people. It's like, because I think that's why I think maybe artists and creators do suffer more, maybe because everything is like, they're looking at such detailed perspectives, that's probably why it gets sometimes too much, because it's just overload, isn't it?
100%, 100%, and I think it's important to to be honest and open about those things. I think creative people tend to be more sensitive, in general. That's not just with their artwork, like you say, that is with their personal lives as well. And I've definitely had times of being overthinking things, being really sensitive in situations where other people wouldn't be sensitive at all. But I always do say that's just like a creative, that's just a thing that comes with being really creative, like and it's better to have that than not, because it's like frequencies in an EQ, like you want to have everything instead of just only a little bit of something. You want to have like more to play with than just, what I mean. So it's just, nothing's perfect, but you just have to work with the good stuff, and good comes out of bad anyway. So it's just, every day you have to just take it kind of like, am I in the mood to do this? No, okay, I'm not gonna like pressure myself. That is key, isn't it? To not put yourself in a position of, I don't want to do this thing that I'm now going to do. Just I think just allowing yourself to go, I'm not into that now, I'm not going to do it. It's fine. I think
you can beat yourself up about it. Like I've done that in the past, where it's like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be this far now, I should be, I should have a hot tub, I should have all these things, and but I don't. But it's okay, because I think it's exciting, isn't it? Not knowing, like, and trying, like, people would say,
and like the pressure we put on ourselves is like the biggest pressure, and the moment you you free yourself up a little bit, and you reduce that pressure, or you can, the easier things become. I was thinking about when you were talking about being on stage and sort of thinking about how many people are watching you. I think a lot of people have experienced that, and the thoughts that sort of flash through your mind while. Because essentially, I don't know about, like I would just be telling myself, don't be an idiot the whole time. And that ends up being like your massive distraction point to definitely be an idiot.
I used to hear voices, like I'd hear like the crowd even sort of saying stuff and almost calling me names. But I was singing, and you wouldn't be able to tell that I was like really beating myself up, like in my own head. And like one time after a gig, I actually said to one of my friends who was on the lineup, and I was like, he was like, oh, amazing set, blah blah, and I was like, I literally was having like the worst time on stage, because I was hearing all these like people like talking about me, like, but it was all in my head. And I actually wrote a song called It's All in My Head, which is quite a sort of shouty song, which is coming from my next album. So it's about kind of like schizophrenia, and just like just how like a lot of times like you think that something or someone said something, and you've actually just got the wrong end, and you've just built up this whole like thing, and it's actually just all in your own head. It's not I've done that recently, where
Definitely.
I thought
I've done that
someone
times.
said and then I had to actually talk to the guy. I was like, oh, like, did you mean this? And he was like, no. I was like, I didn't sleep for ages, because I was just like, overanalyzing everything.
Yeah, do you know what? There is a really good strategy for that, because I've been really bad for. I mean, I feel like we do share some character traits in common. Like, I've been really bad for overanalyzing things, and just going down the rabbit hole with your thought patterns, like the spiral downwards. I think it's really important to see the triggers for that starting to occur, and having some rationale to get
Grounding.
Jump out of that spiral downwards, because it goes. So there's first thing I want to say is that there is a track by Johnny Cash called It All Goes Down in Your Mind.
Cool. Okay.
Which is, I think it's about like, you know, whatever you feel the world is like, that's what that's what's going down in your mind. That's what your world is like. So yeah, whatever picture that you paint is what's happening in the world, and it all goes down in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess we all get into these rabbit holes. But one really amazing strategy for that, and which I've learnt recently, and a friend of mine has only just discovered, and she said it's the only book she will ever need in her life. There's a woman called Byron Katie who does a thing called The Work. Have you heard of that?
Okay. No.
It sounds rubbish, and she's one of these women who's been on Oprah and done lots of huge things that probably for me personally would put me off. You know, knowing that, I'd be like, yeah, probably quite a mainstream idea that's like a catch-all for everybody. But it's a phenomenal way of reinterpreting a story that you've made in your head and putting pure logic behind it. Like, all you have to do is question, is there a possibility that what I'm thinking is not true? Is there a possibility what I'm thinking is not true? And the answer to that is always yes. So the moment you open up the door to there's a possibility this isn't the truth, what I'm thinking, then you go into the next question, and then you end up switching the situation around, and you realise how deluded and weird your own story is from the reality. So it's been hugely beneficial to me in the last, I've only known about it for like 5 or 6 years, but I would totally recommend it for situations like that.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I've had to sometimes over the few years, just like things that I've been kind of like things that I've always gone back to, like overthinking, and I'm like, why do I think like that? And then I usually trace it back to sort of just certain periods of time where I've, you know, something's happened where that's the reason why I've like got that viewpoint, or I've got it's all kind of traceable, I think, isn't it? And it's working out. It's like dreams, because it's like subconscious. Sometimes you react to things or something's happened, and then you're like, you don't really think about it, and then you're like, actually that did affect me, but not in such a like not like a punch, you know, like if you get punched you remember it, but it's sometimes things that people have said or done, or like how you've reacted, and then it's like, oh yeah, so I'm now thinking that because of that happened, and then so it's like retracing of like, that's why like sometimes when you dream something, you're like, why did I dream that? And then you're like, oh, it's because it's usually the first thing that comes into your mind, the association. So if you've got issues where like you're like trying to figure things out, it's usually the first thing. It's like the association thing. It's just like there, and you're like, okay, and then So it's just good to spend a bit of time, you know, without any like thing going on, and just thinking about, you know, like I write a diary still. Just sometimes I just write little things on my mind, just like words, and I'm just like, just to try and get it out and then think about those words. That's like my sort of strategies, because then I can sleep a bit better, because I'm just like, I can let it out. Even if I've written it the same thing, the page like a couple of days before, it's just, I think it's sort of, for me it really helps, like when there's loads of going on. I find it, I don't always want to bore people with my shit, so I like I've got my diary just to sort of like be myself and not be judged, because the paper doesn't like say anything back.
Exactly.
So
and you can also, I think you can look back on those things. I do the same thing. I know lots of people that do journal, sort of, some regularly, some just when they need it. Like I do it when I feel like I need it. I think it is really valuable to look back on and sort of understand yourself better. And 100%, definitely. The moment you've put those ideas out there, you feel like you just feel cleansed, you know, like in a non-cheesy way. You feel like I've expelled these things that are flying around my head, particularly first thing in the morning. You know, we've all got these weird unexplainable emotions that happen first thing in the morning. You're like, wow, why do I feel sort of envy for no reason? And so getting it down on paper, Yeah, I think that's really good. A really good way of working with it. For some reason, I'm just remembering. I used to be a really big football fan. I'm not anymore, but I'm remembering when you mentioned about
what team.
I am actually a Liverpool fan because I was born in Liverpool.
Ah, I used to be a Chelsea season ticket holder when I was like really young. Yeah, like my stepdad was like obsessed with them, so I had no choice. I had to support Chelsea. Like I had to.
Cool.
Yeah.
So did you go to many games then?
I think I went to like maybe. I think I remember like one very prominently, but I must have gone to like 2 or 3. Yeah.
But I do remember
fun.
this football player who, before he took a penalty in the World Cup a few years ago, well, I say a few years ago, probably means something like 25. But
yeah.
before he took the penalty, he took his own. He was taking his own pulse. He was a Croatian player called Davor Suker, and he was just stood there, and you could see that he was regulating his heart rate. Because he knew it was a really important situation, that obviously the pressure's going to rise, your heart rate's going to rise, you're going to start. But he just stood there and took his own pulse, and he scored the penalty. And I just, for some reason, when you were talking about feeling pressure in performing, I just thought about that. Like he was able to take that moment and bring it down to the...
Like control is, sort of self-control.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, isn't it, to like music does that to us as well, where we're playing a really heavy song or fast, and then the next song's like slower, and we've got to like then settle into that. Otherwise, you end up playing it like the same speed, and you're like, yeah. And then your set is like 10 minutes when it should have been like 30. So I can relate to that with the sort of the control of.
There's some really good breathing exercises. There's a guy called Wim Hof who's a Dutch guy, and he's
the Iceman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about him, like seen little bits, but yeah.
There's one amazing breathing exercise that he does, and you realise how powerful and amazing the human body is when you do it, because you get like a tingling sensation, really pleasant sort of thing just from being yourself breathing. Very deeply in and very deeply out. So I think that those sort of things are quite good to just ground you and sort of remind you that you're sort of a living being and not this
definitely
weird ego.
I stretch a lot. Because for me, what actually helped like my like mental health or whatever is like stretching, and like I suppose I do my own yoga. Like I don't really follow. I've been to like a few classes, but I actually just love like feeling like, oh, I've got a bit of a pain or in my leg, like just feeling like, oh, I need to like stretch it out, and I've got my own sort of ways of how I sort of do it, I suppose. And breathing is interesting because I realise that I don't breathe deeply. Like I'm always quite sort of short breathed, and when I breathe deeply, I suppose singing like actually helps me like slow down my breathing, because and I think that's why I find it really like, when I don't know what else to do, when the world is like, I like singing. I've always sang when I'm scared as well. Like I used to be scared of the dark when I was younger, and I used to just sing because that would just help me make light of the situation. Like sing to the bathroom in the dark.
Oh, that's nice.
But sort of, I still do it every now and then. Like just like if I've got loads of stuff to do, I notice that I'm just singing little songs to sort of keep my like stress levels down as well.
That's cool. Well, you are an amazing songwriter.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really incredible. I've loved listening to all your albums and EPs. I've just had your stuff on repeat since it was on Six Music, because Lauren Laverne played one of your tracks not long ago, right?
Yeah, I think was it the Wish and Well song?
Yes.
I think.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
That song actually, when I wrote it, I was sort of crying sometimes because it was just like really like, I suppose what I was talking about as well, and just the vibe. It's got a lot of hope in it, and I sort of feel like I really. Someone said something to me the other day which I found interesting, because I've always been a hopeful person, but he goes, hope is actually a very meaningless word, because you can't really, to make things better, you can't just sort of sit and hope. You have to kind of really do something about it. And that made me feel like, yeah, so true. But I think this song is just like, you know, I suppose it is just that kind of, even though the feeling isn't sort of meaningless, like hope isn't a meaningless feeling. So I suppose like that, yeah, it kind of captures that that positivity outlook for the future, I suppose.
I think it's not meaningless, but it's meaningless in like a physical realm of like getting stuff happen. Like it doesn't actually make stuff happen, but I think it is a really valuable emotion and a really valuable thing, because if you don't have that hope of like making
then
things
you wouldn't
better
do anything.
and a better world, and then what emotion is going to drive you forward? I think hope is really valuable. It's like when people are like on Mount Everest and you know, like it's really cold, and I guess if they lose hope that they're going to reach the summit, they ain't going to fucking reach the summit, you know, like you could lose that.
Yeah.
So I think you do need that. Yeah, you do need it. And yeah, it's not going to, if we all just hope the world's a better place, I mean, it might work. It might work.
Yeah.
But
I think some people can hope, and some people like, because hope, I suppose, it's like it's sort of a like a loving, positive word.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's like the spark. Like you need that spark to make the fire. Yeah. So
definitely.
it's just, yeah. I feel
it
like
needs to go hand in hand with something else, but like I think it is a powerful,
that's the thing. Yeah, strategy. It's like
force.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, well, congratulations on having the airplay on Six Music. I later discovered you'd also been played by Guy Garvey, Tom Ravenscroft, like a lot of the
and the
Six
Moan
Music
Dodlets.
crew.
Yeah,
That's brilliant. I mean,
yeah.
How does that feel to have your music played on a national radio station, which is like the best radio station in the UK, in my opinion?
Yeah, I was so chuffed. Like when it was my first album, like they all, like lots of DJs really liked it. Like Chris Hawkins, he was the first person to play one of the first sort of song off that album. And Nimone had played a song, Distant Days, in the past as well. But I was really shocked at how many songs from the album they actually aired. I was like, wow. So yeah, it's really cool. I really hope, my next album, it's very different to my other stuff. So it might not be the same people, but I've been listening to a lot of the Stooges recently, like the Fan House album. And there's like, I really hope that there's one particular song that Iggy, if he ever hears it, like plays it. That would be amazing. But yeah, it's just so nice. Like anyone who plays my music, like whether they're on the radio or not, I'm just thankful that people like it and it's making them happier or just making them boogie or whatever they do. Like, because I think music's really helped me. Like actors, this band from Canada, they brought out an album, I think, a couple of years ago, and I just absolutely love it. It's one of the best albums I've heard in ages. And when I'm feeling a bit like, you know, when you're feeling like, oh, like no hope, they just they just give me this energy where it's just like it almost makes me feel quite sort of like militant in like what I want to do. I'm like, no, I am going to make this happen. Like they give me this like amazing energy.
Good.
So check them out.
Yeah, I will do.
Really cool.
I think you've mentioned in a couple of interviews, you have mentioned bands from Canada.
Oh yeah, Psyche.
Yes.
Yeah, they're wicked as well.
Power Glove, were they from Canada?
I don't know if they're from Canada. Maybe they are.
But yeah, Psyche, I've written Psyche Canada. They might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah, I check them out. Yeah, your music's fantastic. I mean, you were talking in an interview about sort of songs of the year, you know, like where you've got a song that would like connect you with a certain time and it's your song of the year. And for me, Nothing Left to Try is totally my song of this year. Like, it's such an incredible pop song. I think it's like beautiful.
Cool. my mate Rob helped me produce that, because I actually had a different song. Like, I wrote the song, but it was done in more of a sort of soul kind of way, like maybe even a bit sort of R&B pop. And then he just took it to the 80s and then redid the music. And yeah, and then I was it was going to be a remix, and I was like, no, let's put that on the album, because it just, yeah, so
because
transformed it into that.
It's a superb song. It's a superb song, Ruby. It's amazing. Like, it's beautifully written. Like, the content of it is, you know, the story. I'm interpreting it as the story that, like, the end of a relationship, and you've given up. But so yeah, it's like such a beautiful way to sum up a very difficult and emotional time. It's just so amazing to bring it into such a beautiful song, you know, like, it's sort of, it makes that
that's cool.
Yeah, really, really, really incredible song. And I think a lot of people have been in those sorts of situations where, as much as you want to keep going, you realise that you can't. So yeah, amazing song. Amazing song.
Cheers.
Do you draw a lot from relationships in your songwriting, or where do you draw? Where do you draw sort of inspiration from?
I do. It's like, it is tend to be like maybe exaggerated, because luckily I've never really been into like many dramatic relationships, but it's still sad when like you just feel like, actually this person, I just feel like it's not, like, there's just something that isn't like I can feel like I could continue, or like in the past I've been like really hurt, and I sort of I've you know, I'm I definitely draw some elements, and then sometimes I kind of take those elements and I add more sort of you know, I suppose just bring out like the emotion, I suppose, to sort of really get that kind of maybe it's subconscious that I actually all my relationships that I've been in, like, I haven't been in loads. I've been in like quite, you know, a few, but like they've all been like, they've all taught me so much, and about myself and about people, and I even love, like, I think I've realised that we tend to love people that we see things in them that we almost want to be, and we sort of like, we get really attached to that, and then the sort of control comes in where it's like, I don't want you to be with, like, I don't want you to hang out with anyone else because I think you're awesome and you're mine. But actually, like, that's not love. That's just like, that isn't love, because when you love, you just feel so safe in like, people can then do what they want and be wherever they want, because you want them to grow into the best person, and sometimes like you can't always do that, like, for them, like you can't really do that anyway, because it's naturally not your job. Like, they have to find their own way. But sometimes I think, like, maybe women tend to do it because of that sort of nurture, like mothering sort of nurture thing. But I've noticed in the past, like, it's like you find yourself in patterns, and it's like, no, like, this isn't, I need to maybe concentrate on me, and then when I'm feeling like full, then the other, then that's when people come along, I think, who are full as well. They're not, you know, do you know what I mean? That's
absolutely.
When you so I've learned lots, I think.
I think like any relationship, I'm sure we've all gone into relationships where you sort of idolize the person that you're going to be going out with, and you're like, oh my god, they're going to make everything brilliant, they're so amazing, everything they do is perfect. I mean, I think that is the process of falling in love in some ways, is like that infatuation. They're
going to feel that sort of but then the idolizing, there's sort of like a power dynamic where it doesn't really work long term, because it's like, the dynamics just don't work. So I think you're exactly right, that if you both come to it as whole people who are comfortable with yourselves and your own body and mind or whatever, you know, you're just comfortable in yourself, then that's the best time to meet someone else and then you're both going to lift each other up together, support each other. Yeah, for sure. And then I think also communication, like, because like my next album is basically about the period of my life where I was really lonely. Like, I was I was like just feeling so low. And because I think I actually got into music because I wrote love songs a lot and about boys that I fancied in high school, and that's like a lot of my songs were like about like I just wanted to find like, you know, that soulmate vibe. And it's like kind of funny because now I've actually got like I've written loads of, you know, like my music's been influenced by love really in a way. Like I don't write songs about like the government yet anyway. Like I've written one now because of bloody the coronavirus last year, but like usually it's I just find it so inspiring because I think it's just a beautiful thing, isn't it, love? So my next album's like about that kind of mental health issues that I had, about like insecurities and about myself and about like almost being desperate. And actually there's an amazing song by BC Camplight called Desperate, and it's one of the best songs I heard like last year.
I love that song.
Worth checking out.
Yeah. It's the synth.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it?
Is so weird, but it's brilliant. Like,
oh yeah, 'cause it's all a bit like it's a bit spooky. It's got this like edge about it, and then it's up this chorus like I want to know. Like it's just like whoa. Yeah, it's so good.
That song really has some power to it, doesn't it? There's some I love that synth, that sort of like it's like, but they've got some sort of pitch control, pitch LFO, so it's like waving in and out of being in tune very slightly. So it just like it just makes you sound weird. Like if that wasn't they've really programmed that nicely.
It's a
excellent. That is a great song. But well, it's interesting you talk about being lonely as driving you forward into writing stuff and being creative. I interviewed a big electronic artist called Infected Mushroom a few weeks ago, and he said, I
think I recognise that name actually. I have to check it out.
They've been around for years, but it was really interesting to hear Dovdev, like one of the duo, saying that his songs, he said he needs two states of mind to write music. He needs to either feel amazing or he either needs to feel really depressed. And he said his wife told him that all his songs he'd written, the best songs he'd written, were when he was depressed.
Yeah, that's so typical, isn't it?
Amazing.
It's like, my songs are so bad when I'm happy, like they're so cheesy and shit. But when I'm like feeling, that's sort of, that a lot of the songs have come out of sadness, like pretty much all of them really.
Because I think we can all relate. I think that's why a lot of pop song, you know, like do you know Phil Spector, the producer?
Oh yeah, the producer, yeah.
Like all of his songs, they're all romantic love songs, but they've got a twinge, they've got a slight air of sadness in them, of melancholy. And we all have these shared experiences and shared feelings. So I think there is like, alongside love, there is like pain as well. These two things sort of coexist, and I think you can fuse that together in pop like in a really nice way. I think with love as well, like when you're feeling all happy, like you kind of don't feel like the urge to do things because everything's kind of fine, so you don't really need to like do anything. But when you're like in difficult situations, you're like, like you just need, it's like an escapism. I think like music is that, it's like getting you out of that. That's why we sort of tend to write, I suppose, when we're more in pain than not, because it must be the chemical thing. Like when you've got that sort of dopamine or serotonin or whatever, like you just sort of you can just meditate and just be chill. It's just it's a tremendous driving force, isn't it? I guess it's like all the people that told you in your life that you were not going to make it, or you weren't going to do it, or I told you so. Like all of those people, I think something like there's a really high percentage of business people that they interviewed, and a really high percentage of them said that they were driven by the people in their earlier life who said they couldn't do it.
Oh yeah.
And I can totally relate to that. You know, like as you alluded to earlier, you know, like things that people say to you and all that stuff. Like I remember bad things people have said to me going back years, but they now drive me forward in a way that it's actually been quite useful. Yeah.
It's funny that, isn't it? Like, that's sort of, it's like when someone says, "Oh, don't do that," it makes you want to do it more. it's that kind of to sort of it's a good, I suppose, you just, at the end of the day, it's just about making good, like, out of, it's like you're not doing it because you want to be, like, even told you so. It's like maybe in some cases, because that's almost like, it's sort of a bit of a edge of, like, revenge, maybe, because it's like you want to sort of prove them wrong. But it's like, I think in a way, it's maybe it's your insecurity being like, like, maybe I can, maybe you're proving yourself, because there's part of you maybe that even believes them. So you're like, I'm going to test this. Yeah. Just double check to see if they're right.
Yeah, I mean, you do write amazing pop songs. Like, I really enjoyed listening to your music, and it does really inspire me, and I do feel really good listening to, like, the energy that's in the songs. Celebrate is one that's got a lot of energy. It's like the opening track to your
That's
LP.
funny, that one.
Yeah. It's got a great energy, and I think then when you see the music video too, it's like it gives it even more life and more energy.
It's so funny. I love that day. I was like, all my friends were just like, I was just doing improvised dancing and they were just copying me, and it felt really good being like in control, because they were just like watching me, and I was like, I can do whatever, and they're just going to copy me. So I just made it really silly.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It looks amazing. It really looks choreographed. There's like,
really, that's funny.
It's excellent. It's got, I think there's a very sort of bubbly, funny nature to that video that enhances the track for sure. You know, you've definitely done what a music video should do, which is like elevate the track. So now when I listen to the track, I think about the video too, and it makes me smile. So yeah, you've
that's cool.
Yeah, and you've produced a lot of your videos, haven't you? You've been involved in the process of making them too.
Yeah. That one not so much, but with, it was sort of just like a few little ideas like the director Joe had, but I think the one that I mainly got involved with was like Hustle, because I kind of did the whole set design for that, and basically I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I had the whole video idea, just like, so I was so excited. So as soon as I got out of bed, I was on the phone to my mate. I was like, can you do the artwork? Because you know those UV masks? Like my mate Toby Melville Brown, he's an amazing illustrator, and he did those. And then I got some mates involved to sort of help. Like my mate Ross did like the lights and the smoke machine. And Sheridan helped me make the video, like shoot it, and then I went round his and then just was like, right, I edited it with him. I told him kind of what I wanted and all the cross fading, because I love the old school like 80s, you know, like the cross. So chuffed how that went in the end, and then I've like done, I suppose, What Will Become of the Wishing Well. I had an idea for that, and my friend just like came and shot that, and I edited it. So I sort of, I've got like my sort of, I do, because I've done music videos for other bands, so I sort of know the kind of like what I sort of, what I kind of want out of the video. It's never going to be exact, but I try and make it to a point where I'm really happy. It's the same as the music. Like I like to be part of like everything, because it is a whole platter, isn't it? It's like what you give out, it's just part of the whole thing. So
your videos do it really good, and they've all got their own sort of unique qualities and unique styles. But the Hustle video is brilliant. The sort of two-tone lighting, I love that sort of, a bit of purple and a bit of green,
soft,
or a bit of blue, and I love those like gradients of colours that just come together.
Gradients are rad. I love gradients too.
No, your videos are good, and I love that video as well when it looks like you're on the Downs somewhere, and you've got the most amazing set of binoculars I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, so that was Laura Little and Elliot Tatler who directed and produced that video, and it was so fun shooting with them and like them, the sort of the ideas, and it's brilliant. It was just I don't know what else to say. That was really cool.
I could just the binoculars are just stunning. They look like something out of 2001 Space Odyssey. And
So
the ghetto
funny.
was the one, the wishing well. Is that you've got a ghetto blaster? Is that the one with the red ghetto blaster in it? Yeah.
Yeah, that Ghetto Blast has been around. Like, that was my first ever Yumi in the Weather shoot. Actually, was starring that, and I've got this weird sort of a relationship with it because I got it in like 2007, and it's like just still, it's just always in my room, and I just think it's really cute. And it doesn't work, but it just is. It's really cute. So I'm just gonna keep. It's gonna pop up every now and then, I think, in things. Yeah.
Is it possibly something that you found in a charity shop?
Actually, it was Snooper's Paradise. But like charity shops, like, well, obviously I haven't been in one for a long time, but that is definitely like my when I'm not in front of the computer or out and about, like, I'm at a charity shop, like seeing what people have thrown away.
Do you ever find any like things for making music with?
Like I think I got like a kalimba. Mainly actually when I first started doing music production, I was finding vinyls and was starting to build up a collection so I could like sample. So I've got a lot of vinyls from charity shops, but then I started like a little DJ collective with my two mates called Wax Virgins because we had never DJ'd.
Nice.
So we just like only perform really vinyls mainly from charity shops. And I'm just trying to think what else, like charity shops, maybe flea markets I've bought guitars from. Like I've got this, I'll show you actually.
Wow.
So I've got
oh wow.
it's like a 1989 Epiphone Flying V, but the bridge is actually wood. It's like someone's made the bridge. But it's really cool. So yeah, that's gonna hopefully come out to play when all the venues open again.
Amazing.
And, yeah, it's hard to find instruments in charity shops. It's mainly like clothes and records that I usually get. And maybe some random bits and stuff. But
I've gone through this whole journey with charity shops. I worked in one. I got an assistant manager's job when I came out of uni. So I was like right in at the deep end then, basically, and sort of fallen in and out of love with it, but always been a volunteer in charity shops.
That's so nice.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a really amazing thing. You end up meeting people that you would never have met. Generally, everyone's really kind-hearted and helpful. There's always like biscuits. Have a cup of tea and some biscuits. Biscuits. Yes. So I just love it. It's a really great thing that I would recommend anyone does, to just go into a charity shop that you love going to. There's always one that you really connect to. And just volunteer like 2 or 3 hours a week. It doesn't have to be a lot, and I really enjoy it. It helps me as much as I'm helping them, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's cool. I love charity shops, but I've never actually volunteered. I think also I've got so many things that I need to finish that maybe once I finish them, then I'll have more time to sort of commit to other things that I care about.
Definitely. Because you produced the EP that you released in December. Am I right in thinking you did the whole thing yourself?
Yeah, I did, apart from the mastering. It was just sort of, I released like an EP, Something Tells Me EP a few years ago. That was my first ever self-produced release. And then I think Be There as just a standalone single, and then In the Night, which is on a 7-inch vinyl, that was my own. And then this one was really fun because it just, all the songs came out so quickly, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with them in terms of production, and I wanted that MIDI drum sound because I love MIDI drums. Like, I know some people are like, oh, but I think they're great. They could just, for certain things,
awesome.
Yeah. But so it was just really fun. Like, I think I had some friends, because obviously I know like lots of people who mix, and they were like, oh, can I have a go? And I'm like, no. I want to do it. Just give me time. Sometimes I'm quite a control. Well, I think I am a bit of a control freak with my music. Like even my first album, working with Rob, like I hated it as soon as we finished it. I was like, oh, it's not sounding how I kind of wanted to, and then it grew on me again, like, because I was so used to hearing the demos. And I knew what I wanted to do with that, but I had to sort of go different directions. So it's sometimes hard to let go, but I think I'm getting more and more like I'm not the most technically I don't know what I'm doing most of the time, to be honest, but I do mess around until I feel like it feels good, like, to me, and sounds good to me. So that's, for me, that's the most important thing. I don't care if someone says, oh, that's too low in the mix, but it's like, I need it to get those chills on my spine before I can get it out to the public. Because if it's not doing it to me, then
I can understand that you want to, like, it's your creation at the end of the day, and I think that you hear it in a certain way when it first enters your mind, or however you sort of creatively come across it. And I think that it's probably a case of sometimes having compromises with certain parts of tracks. But I think that the way that album was produced is phenomenal. Like, I'm a huge fan of the 80s sound, and there's a really cohesive quality to that record that you've done that it's one whole beautiful collection of tracks. And the production is a fantastic element of it, as well as alongside the songwriting and the instrumentation, the arrangement. I'm really proud. I think it's just because me and Rob spent like nearly every single day in January and February of like 2018 just on that record. So I think I probably just hated it because I was like, I literally just can't hear this anymore. Like, literally gonna just go crazy. So I had to have a break. But every now and then I stick it on because I do like hearing back, the sort of difference. And it's funny, isn't it? Good. I think John Grant said about songwriting and performing, it's like it's sometimes at his own expense. Like, the songs he makes are at his own personal expense. Which is, a really interesting way to look at it. Like, the process may have been very difficult or very painful for him with a particular song, but he knows he's putting something out there that will lift people and elevate people. That's why you get it done, really. Otherwise, you probably have loads of projects that you started and there's no sort of real push to kind of finish them. And it's like you need, as a musician or creator, do you need that discipline to like just get things finished, because it's so hard sometimes. Like, that emotion won't be the same like in a few days, and then you've just like, when you go back to it, you're like, oh no, I don't feel that anymore. So it's like you have to almost keep going back in time to like feeling that. That's why I'm having trouble with this album at the moment, because just like it's taken me back to that time when I was just like a proper emo. So like it's you'll hear the album, you'll be like, oh yeah, I can totally hear the emo sort of vibes coming out. But but I think I do enjoy these songs, and I'm so excited to finish it because it's like more rocky and like going back to my roots of like electric guitar, which is what like got me into music like at the beginning anyway. So I get to, instead of electronic-y, I'm sort of going back to like what, it's like a sort of, that feels really fun to sort of do some solos for a change. That's cool. Where do your songs, how do they start? Like, where do they come from?
Everyone is like different. So sometimes it's like, it's even just drums. It starts with like a rhythm, and then I get like a sort of bass or melody that goes with that, and then I start filling in all the textures, all the gaps. It generally starts with like, it actually does start with a tempo, and then like maybe like I'll sing like a kind of line. It just sort of pops in my head really, and then I'm trying to just basically imitate what I hear in my head. Like, sometimes I write like whole songs like in my head, like all the stuff, but I don't ever just go to the computer and try and dissect that. It's just usually little songs, and then it's like, oh, bye. But I think it's just faffing around. It's all like, like a doodle. If you're drawing, it's like it starts off as a doodle, and then you just make that doodle into a full-blown picture. That's how I sort of see my like music. It's never like, all right, I'm going to start with this. It's like I'm messing about. If I'm in a mood, or I might even take like songs that I've written on the acoustic guitar, but then I'll recycle kind of melodies from other songs that haven't been out, and I'll use them in the new ones because they're still, that kind of melody's quite sort of prominent in my sort of mind at the time. Yeah, and then I suppose like it's all down to like production, like how do you take that song, like depending on what you use, that's what I suppose makes it the genre it is. So like if you make it more synthy, then it's stepping in that sort of synth 80s territory, or if you use like just guitar and bass, then you've got the kind of, depending on what reverb or spring, then you can kind of almost give the people the impression of like era. So I think that's what's so nice about all these different like colorings. You can create the sort of space depending on where you want to take people. It almost like a film, like the story could be the same story, but where it's set is kind of down to your imagination and where you want to take people. So I think that's what I love about music, where it is almost like, you know, by people creating like technology and innovative like production techniques at certain periods, that's kind of helping us put you know, taking us to these sort of mishmash of times combined. So and that, yeah, I'm so excited to like see how music evolves in like, you know, 10-20 years, like what we'll be sort of making, you know, like no one can tell you what genre it'll be in the 20 years. It's like we have no idea, because like people
it's like
talking
fashion, isn't it? It's just like so unpredictable,
you just can't...
weird what ends up being popular.
yeah, and it usually is always going back round, and people are sort of recycling, like, you know, people are taking stuff from vintage but then they're making it with like new production. So it's gonna be so interesting of what the kind of, but yeah, like with my sort of songs, I suppose I love loads of genres, so that's why I've got the freedom as Yumi in the Weather to sort of almost like do whatever I want, really, like sound wise, because like before this I was like in a reggae band, and it was very much like kind of, yeah, I just had to sort of keep to that sort of upbeat kind of ska guitar. So when I started making music on the computer, I was just like, oh my god, this is so refreshing that I don't have to be tied to like one sound. I can play around depending on what I want the song's vibe to be. So yeah, it does really vary, but I think, yeah, like bass lines, and I love repetitive things as well, like dance music, like I like, or even in R&B, like hip hop, where the singer just sings over the same sample throughout the whole song. It's the same sample but different melodies override that, and I really like that with my music as well, because it means that I can work more on the dynamics than just all the different progressions, and add sort of like more sense of like building. And then so I kind of like, I can't like keep my songs kind of just simple. I just feel like sometimes you don't need to do too much. It's just more about like, you have to, it's so easy to be like, oh, I could just write another bridge section and take this song somewhere else, but it's like, actually, like it doesn't need to be too crazy. Just like getting you know, yeah,
definitely.
I just like it.
I think that it's the same with a lot of like ambient music. I find is like the sense of restraint that's within it is really appealing. Like it doesn't need to go off into directions. It doesn't need to go off into different tangents. If it just slowly evolves and changes, like that has a beauty of its own.
Yeah,
as well.
like the hypnotic thing. Like I just love that hypnotic. And then when it stops, you're like, oh, where something's different, something's changed.
There is a really, because what I would do in that situation when I like stopped it and I'm like, oh, I just play it again, right? And I always thought this is something that like I sort of did, and it was a bit weird where I just listened to the same song over and over and over. But I've actually learned only in the last few years that it's actually what a lot of people do when they're in like high performing states. Like there's one song that puts you in exactly the right mode for I don't know, work or creativity or whatever. I can just put the same song on for like hours on end and just be in this lovely place. Whereas if I did that with my own music, I would probably have some significant difficulties listening to it.
It's too much, like, because you're when you make your music, like you have to listen to it so much anyway. So when it's done. When I finish a song though, I do listen to it a few times in a row because I'm so happy that I've like done like a demo that I'm happy with, and I want to send it to everyone, and I listen to it over and over. But then the next day I'm like, I have to have a few days off, and then I'll come back to it and then tweak it, and then I know it's done when I'm just like, oh, like I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
So,
DJ.
yeah.
I spoke to DJ Rap, who's a really big drum and bass producer. She's been in the industry for like 30 years or probably more as a producer and DJ, and she said that her top number one advice for making drum and bass tunes anyway was to put an 8-bar loop on and walk away from it and go and do something else and see if you still like it. You know, in the background, just hearing it. Is it? You
get more ideas when you're away and you sort of do something else because you're not so intense. Like.
Yeah, like listening to one element and going, that hi-hat sounds wrong. What's wrong with the hi-hat?
Oh, man.
Just, like, there's no point in doing that. You might as well.
I've spent months on one particular song, actually. My friend Mark Dobson, who's, like, helping me mix the album, he's saved me so many times with, like, I was working on, like, a song, like, Distant Days. Like, I was working on that for months, and I was just doing that, like, tweaking all silly little things. Like, and then when you change it, then you go back and you're like, oh, no, but then that's now off, and then... You know, you're just constantly trying to like find this, and it's just like every day is going to be different, so that you're just sort of wasting time. Like, so I sent it to him, and he just like mixed it, and I was like, okay, that's great.
Yeah, I definitely like. I think that you get to a point of diminishing returns doing that stuff. Like you actually end up sabotaging your music, going beyond a certain realm.
Oh man!
And I've learned only in the last maybe year or so that I can now recognise when I'm starting to ruin a track instead of actually... Yeah. I feel like, because I'm in front of it working on it, I feel like it's still going forward. But actually, I'm now able to go, turn the computer off, go and do something else. Because that was just not good for the thing. So yeah, being able to recognise in your own creative process what's useful and what isn't is really important, I find. And sometimes having like a limit, like a sense of urgency, like even like a time limit. I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to work on this and that's it. Then you suddenly prioritise what you really need to do, and you don't get lost in those small things.
Yeah, I noticed that when I'm leaving, I'm supposed to be going out, and I'll be like, right, I've got like 15 minutes, I'll just quickly like play a song or whatever. That's when I end up writing some stuff. I'm like, oh, like, because it's just sort of like I've got a certain amount of time, and then it's like, oh, I don't want to now do the thing that I have to do because I've just started writing something, and all day I've been like, oh, yeah, it's funny that sort of timing.
I think limitation can be a really good thing for creativity. Yeah,
and deadlines.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad I got a label supporting me, because they're like, right, we need this by then. If you want to get it out by this time, you have to have it delivered then. And it's like, okay, that's good, because I'm so laid back. I'm just like, you know, like, do people even need to hear this? Like, am I being selfish by pushing my music onto people? Like, I have all those thoughts, and I'm like, no, they obviously think that it's worth it finishing. So yeah, it's good to have people like that helping.
Yeah,
that sort of stuff.
And how long have you been with your label for?
Small Pond, so literally since like I did the EP with them. That was, well, my album was going to be the first release, but then I jumped in with this new EP. So yeah, only like not very long at all, like probably the last like year and a bit we've been working together. And yeah, they're just such lovely guys, and I'm just excited to kind of, you know, give them the goods. So
we definitely are. I think that, you know, you're clearly very talented and you can write fantastic songs. So looking forward to the next album. Do you know, I mean, there's no pressure, but do you feel like it's going to be out this year?
Yes, definitely has to be. Yeah, I actually do have to have it out, because I actually got a grant from Help Musicians.
Oh, excellent.
And so
well done.
They said, thank you. They said, it's got to be out before a certain time, otherwise I've got to give all the money back. So it has to. I'm not going to run away to Mexico with it. it's not enough actually for that. But, and also, I can't even go abroad at the moment anyway. Well, none of us can. But yeah, hopefully the first single comes out as a sort of rough hopefulness is probably like in the summer, like June, July. This is going to be the first one.
Excellent. Great. Oh, cool. And are there music? Are you going to do some of your funky music videos too?
Yeah, actually, I've let everyone kind of. I've given people a few ideas, but I've let them run with the kind of direction. I'm sort of not being as control freak with that side of it now because I'm so excited actually about finishing this album and maybe even taking like a little short break of music to pursue other things because I've been sort of doing the Yumi and Weather thing for like quite a number of years, and I feel like this is such a weird time with like not really knowing about like gigging again or so I'm like actually I'll get this album done, see what happens, and and I'm not as because the songs I said before are kind of quite sort of from a period darkish period of my life, so like I don't want to have too much I want it to be fun, and I'm quite serious when it comes to the I want it to be like a certain way, but now I'm like letting people just run with it and I want them to have fun with my songs basically. So so excited I'm not going to give you any inclinations of what's coming. I think it'll just be nicer to sort of but I'm so excited. Some people's ideas are like very, very sort of fun.
You mentioned outside of stuff outside of music then, like what sort of stuff, we talked about charity shops a little bit, but what other sorts of stuff do you like doing aside from music?
Well, I love art, I love painting, and I've been drawing longer than I have doing music really, but I've never given it the right amount of time, so I sort of want to maybe go into like more the painty route just for a bit, and I'm studying massage at the moment, and I've been massaging for like years, like for my friends and family and myself, and I thought I'm going to get a qualification so I can maybe do that as a sort of side thing. I'm really interested in like health at the moment because of the whole coronavirus thing, and the kind of speculation of like if disease whether is caused by viruses, because like I was saying like before we chatted in the interview, like terrain theory was never funded, but it was the same time as the germ theory idea came, but they went with that. So I sort of feel like I want to sort of maybe dedicate a bit of time to sort of like looking more into that. And
what is terrain theory? What is it?
So terrain theory is the theory that disease actually doesn't come from others, or viruses. It's actually our body. We get ill because we're trying to detox. So get rid of toxification through like basically being ill is actually a good thing because it's actually getting rid of all the shit in us. But so we don't need so much protection of other people's, because there isn't actually scientific proof that you can't tell that something's infected because they've only studied these things in a petri dish, which is like not in a live environment. So there's lots of very sort of sneaky things that they say are like the science, but it's like, I don't know, that's my sort of interest in terrain, I suppose. Thinking that the body is capable, and I think that's where maybe a lot of chronic illnesses have come from, because we've been like when you're little you get like cowpox or things to suppress your illness, but later on you actually develop maybe worse things because medication isn't actually helping the cause, it's just stopping the symptoms. So I'm finding that really interesting, and I want to actually back up my kind of ideas and things that I've read with more sort of knowledge, because I've had to sort of talk to a lot of people on Facebook even about it, and I get a lot of backlash, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to defend something too heavily that I don't actually know too much about. It's just more questionings at the moment. So I don't want to. I think that's my sort of idea anyway.
Well, I think definitely the pharmaceutical industry is like one of the darkest, alongside like the arms and the military. Like the pharmaceutical industry is huge. It's up there. And there's definitely people being medicated on things that are not good for them, but they are a long-term non-solution to a problem, so people end up being reliant on them. There is a good book. I always tell people not to read it though. There's a book called by a guy called Ben Goldacre called Big Pharma. Okay. And it's about the pharmaceutical industry and how it works. And you realise that tests can just be totally faked, and products can go. The results can be manipulated, and GPs are under huge pressure to give out a certain amount of, let's say, antidepressants in order to get, they get gifted by these huge pharmaceutical companies. So I always tell people don't read that book, but it is amazing. It's like
the truth isn't pretty. It's like it opens so many doors. I think that's the thing. When you start looking into like that, then other things become more transparent of like, oh, that's actually not beneficial for me, but we're sort of thought into that's our only option because it's what the National Health Service provide. Like doctors spend more time trying to learn about what medication to give to people, but the real medicine is actually our bodies. Our bodies are capable of healing. It's just that fasting and eating well isn't actually kind of prescribed. It's just like, take that will go away, but it's like, no, like that's a sign and we're ignoring them. And that's what, apparently there is only one illness and it's called toxemia. So disease comes out in loads of different ways, depending on your lifestyle and what you do, and weaknesses in your body of like, it could be for loads of reasons, but there is actually only one disease, toxemia, and the body is trying to like get rid of it, and we need to let it happen, and our lifestyles do not attribute to it being able to do that at the moment. It depends on what you do. If you've got time to sort of like chill out and eat well, and or not eat and just let the body do the work. But I'm really interested in that side, because I think at the moment that's what's controlling us all and making us scared, which is stressful, and it's not actually healthy. All the things that they've told us to do are not healthy at all, like masks and staying inside and not hugging and not sharing and company, and all the things are not good for our health. And that's what's really mind-blowing, that people are trusting that, and this whole lockdown, and the reason why loads of people are losing their lives and businesses is because of something that isn't even proven to harm us. So I am really angry that there's no more transparency with this and the test. I don't know.
It was I think we did briefly talk about it before we started rolling, about like not believing in our politicians or our governments, and knowing that they, not thinking that they don't have our best interest at heart, but knowing that they don't. And there was, the case like Dominic Cummings was a huge case that was really high profile. Like, not aside from what that guy's done in his life anyway. Like, that's really, I think that definitely precipitated like people being a bit more slack with like the rules, because you see a politician there who's not doing what the politicians are saying. And then a few weeks ago there was also like a Labour peer called Lord Falconer, who said that the lockdown was a gift that keeps on giving for the government, because they can just do whatever it wants. And he literally said those words, it's the gift that keeps on giving. So there is an element of it, it's like, this is not good for the people, but it's great for the people at the top, for the 1% at the top. So I think that is quite it's hard to sort of take that. It's important. I think it's important to put things into perspective and be in control of what you can control.
And it's about looking after yourself, like at the moment, because you can have like views on different perspectives, but at the end of the day, like people are, it's very rare that people actually, it's the ego of like, I'm right, you're wrong. So you can't change. It's very hard to change people's minds of thinking, well, maybe you might be wrong, and it's like I feel like at the moment, like, we've just got to really just do what we can to look after ourselves and do what we can to help each other within our limitations, because that's what we are. We're very limited at the moment. But it's like these talks, chatting to people and, just ringing up people and just doing what we can. And yeah, sort of not buying on Amazon, because like my boyfriend does quite a lot, but because it's obviously cheaper, and it's like, I don't blame him, but it takes a long time to like look into things to be like, oh yeah, that's the cheapest option, when it's just there and it's cheaper than anywhere else, and it's like, oh god, but then it's like, yeah, all these.
The repercussions.
It's just
I think the repercussions on the high street.
Term.
The repercussions on the high street of places like Amazon. It's like frightening from like 20 years ago. But yeah, it is convenience. I think still connecting to nature is really important, and like you said, the restrictions of not being able to hug each other. If you've got family members who are little kids and stuff like that, it's really not nice. But yeah, I mean, hopefully when we're able to go back, it's gonna make all that stuff that much sweeter, like when gigs return and festivals return and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have realised with the crazy show that has been sort of put to us, that people are actually more aware of the kind of the different sort of aspects of health now as well. Like, people didn't know what like terrain theory was, and then people are sort of talking about it more now. So I think like maybe if we started believing and looking into that side of health, then we won't be scared to go out and hug each other, because then we'll know more that actually it's just the darker side of it, of the sort of the foolery, so it's crazy. Like, there's so many things that I like my mum's told me as well about even the vaccine story. Actually, if you're interested, I'll send you her lecture that she did about the history of vaccines. So I'll link that to you. But so I think might try and sort of help her after the sort of album and do some more bits research, and and keep making music. Obviously, I can't not. But just sort of not sort of be so invested in the computer at the moment, because it's just a lot of computer all the time.
Definitely. I've just written an article for a music tech website about because like the key phrase buzzword at the moment in the synth world is doorless. Like, I'm making doorless music. It's like the big buzzword. Everyone's like, yeah, man.
Is that just analog? Like,
no, it just means you're not using like Cubase or Ableton. You're using it could be analog, but it basically means take the computer out of the equation, so there's no DAW.
So be more 8-track, like, kind of vibes.
Yeah, so I wrote an article about how to jam with your synths or whatever without the computer. But I did sort of mock the whole idea of doorless, because it's not actually a new idea. It's really old. It's like what people used to do before computers were there.
Yeah,
so it's not a fresh
new
idea.
thing. Yeah.
But,
doorless point two.
So getting away from the screens is really important, and it does really affect your I think it does affect your output, because you can be hyper attached, or maybe not. You don't want to be hyper attached, but you can hone in on the sound a lot more without any visual representation. So that's always useful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's why writing songs on the guitar and stuff is good, because you can detach and daydream with it a little bit.
Yeah, and there's no sort of pressure to make it like play it perfectly, because you're like having to record it. It's just like it just is what it is. It's very sort of just pure music.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Gwennifer Raymond, the girl I was mentioned to, who plays the Welsh primitive guitar, she was like, she always deliberately makes it not perfect. Like, she put in wrong notes and just do weird stuff, and
that's funny.
Or play them a few times. I think there's a techno producer called Surgeon, and I don't think this is his quote. I think he quoted someone else, but essentially, the more times you play a mistake, the less it's like a mistake. Like the more times you play a wrong note in jazz, or maybe it was a jazz quote, like the more time you play a wrong note, actually it's not wrong anymore. It's fine. So that's also quite a nice philosophy of just embracing whatever happens.
Yeah, it's all expression, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
It's not really wrong, it's just, it is what it is kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can't wait to hear your new album, and I'm really excited to hear it. I'm sure a lot of people are.
Yeah, I hope I'm so, that's actually nice to sort of talk about it, because I've been sort of avoiding doing it because I lost my computer recently, like all my hard drive, so I lost loads of vocal takes for it, and it's taken me a long time to sort of build up that motivation again to kind of like give it some again. So actually talking about it, I'm like, I need to, it's quite it's given me a bit of a drive actually, so
cool.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it should do, because you make great music, and I think your music does a lot of good for the people who get to listen to it.
Yes.
And it's just really fun. It's got a great energy. I think, what was that? Was there a lesson learned there in the losing?
Oh yeah, it's something that I've always keep meaning to do, but like backing up and stuff. Like I've always, like, people always say that, and I'm like, it'll be fine, and then like it's never fine. Like, I've learnt the hard way. But my friend said to me, it means that you're going to just do it better the next time round. And I'm like, that's true, because I've done the vocal takes so many times now. I sort of just know exactly what I want to do, and like I just bust them out, so it'll be all right. And
I think any obstacles that appear in your life are always opportunities to learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
100%.
I had a friend come round with a USB stick and put it in my computer, and that computer died, and it changed the way I always back up since then. And I think you've got to have a moment where you lose everything to put it all in perspective and go, like, right, I'm going to treasure what I've got. And also, I think it's a useful thing in like just being accustomed to loss, and like knowing that actually nothing is going to be here forever. Like nothing is. Yeah,
it didn't even properly exist anyway, because it was all like on the computer. Like it and a lot of things like I'm not going to miss, because all my computer was getting so like filled up with loads of like even previous video sessions that I did for the bands, and I had like loads of memory that was just like being taken. So in a way it was quite nice to have a bit of a like clean slate, but it's just the plugins that I had, or loads of things that I have to kind of and like my new Logic's not quite the same, like there's a few things sort of missing that I'm missing, so like it's just little things really. But no, I'm luckily my friend who I'm mixing some of the songs with had the whole album, so I could just pick up from where like we left off. So I was lucky in that. Otherwise, I don't think I would be, saying I've got an album coming out soon, because I would have just been like, no, I think I'm just gonna just call it a day now.
Well, don't do that.
No. I think I'll always be making music under Yumi in the Weather, but whether it's like sort of really like concentrating on it, it's just gonna be more of like, in a way, like a journal. I think like when I've got stuff, I'll put it out, but if I'm not gonna like pressure myself to keep having to give, like the Spotify guys, like to make it you have to release stuff all the time. I'm like, it's, for me, it's such a it's part of my mental health regime. So if I need to do it, I'll do it. If I don't, I'm not gonna do it.
Do it when you're ready. Do it on your terms.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, best of luck with your album and all of your new music.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really great stuff, and I can't wait to hear Iggy Pop play your new album.
That'd be cool. There's one particular song that I really hope he plays. It's called "It's All in My Head." The one about like hearing sort of your own interpretations of things just in your head. So
Well, thanks very much for speaking to me. It's been really good.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
Oh, she's a lovely girl, Ruby, and Yeah, really talented singer-songwriter. I've had her songs like flying around my head this year and end of last year. Do go check out her music. Also check out the music videos we talk about because they're really nice. They all look, they've all got their own style and they all look fantastic. Also, it's great to talk about mental health issues. We've all suffered with internal demons, and it's really important to share how you're feeling with people, even if you feel like it's insignificant. It's good to get it out there. Okay, on the show next time, we're speaking to a techno producer and DJ who's based in Berlin. She makes some disgusting techno music, which I absolutely love. And so we have a great nerdy and techie chat about that. Please donate to the podcast if you can. That would be greatly appreciated. But as always, I am midierror and I will see you again soon.